next speaker is Kunmi Demurin, who's the ED of Venture Garden Group. Venture Garden is a collection of companies that develop automated data collection, data management, and payment processing solutions for emerging markets, particularly in Africa.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really delighted to be here in your midst today to talk about Venture Garden Group. Venture Garden Group pretty much is it's an entity that started about 3 years ago, actually December 2010 to be precise. And it's a collection of very young, very smart Nigerians in the diaspora who felt it was time to come back home and leverage a lot of the technology solutions that have been built in a lot of these developed countries to come and leverage them in Nigeria. We all know that the margins were thinning out in a lot of the Western economies, and while there's a lot of opportunity in emerging markets like Nigeria, there's also a lot of risk. So the key is being able to mitigate those risks so that you can take advantage of the upside. I show this because I just want to give a little bit of a background into some of the folks who started Venture Garden Group. Bumi, who's my partner, is known throughout the US for doing a lot of very, very incredible technology solutions. He's built about 4 companies from scratch just in his 4th year in university, and is widely celebrated in the African diaspora community in the US. Well, we teamed up right about 2010-ish and decided to go back home to start to establish some of these technologies there. The chairman of our board, and I think it's really important for me to state here because our board members are folks who have a lot of integrity, a lot of credibility. The chairman of the board is Mr. Cyril Odu, who is the vice chairman of ExxonMobil and also doubles as the CFO, former CFO of ExxonMobil Upstream. Now, if you know what ExxonMobil means to global economy, you understand why that's important for revenue, you understand why that's important for international best practices, for corporate governance. We also have Ambassador Robin Sanders, who most Nigerians know served in Nigeria, she served in Congo, she served in South Africa as part of our advisory board. So we're very, very selective with the types of folks that we have on our governing board. Also here, it's pertinent for me to actually show these slides because we have very, very young, vibrant people who are actually running these companies. By the time I show you some of the numbers and some of the visible projects that we're doing in Nigeria that most of you probably are in contact with every day, you'll be amazed that most of the folks who are doing it are, under 30, under 40 in most cases. There are folks who used to work in a lot of the multinationals overseas, decided to come back, doing extremely great things. T-Mac, Tokwe Mac, who actually was one of the pioneer founders, management of MTN. And he served as a deputy CFO, now on our team running our operations as the COO. Sheila used to be in the UK. She ran a lot of exciting projects in capital markets. Tim Straits out of HSBC, he's done a lot of financing. And then Demola Idowu, actually, he's one of the folks who actually pioneered a lot of what we know now as technology offshoring. So what India is known for, they started it about 10 years ago in Nigeria, building all kinds of very exciting software applications, mobile applications, and these people are in Nigeria. So I use that to make a point because I think I saw a logo for Move Back to Nigeria, and I need to get in contact with the folks there because there's just too many people who want to come back home. They're looking for a platform, they're looking for a channel to be able to express their talents. So while you've heard a lot of the presentations today, extractive industries, agriculture, I mean, those are good and great, but I think technology is really the winner here. I mean, technology, is a big driver of most economies. We're here in the UK today. Some of us, are been to the US, been to, other developed countries. And, the one thing that's really different in terms of culture shock is just, just the way technology has transformed their societies. And, if you look at, in several sectors, aviation, finance, education, transportation, they'll have elements of technology. And we think that we can leapfrog that in Nigeria. And I'll tell you how. So just, I showed this also to make a point that, in the last 50 years, one of the most significant findings is that technology has been a huge driver for most developed economies. So what's wrong with where we come from? What's wrong with emerging markets? What's wrong with, African countries? They have the same needs. It's just that from a technology standpoint, they're still a bit behind. And so what we aim to do is to gather a lot of the knowledge that we've perfected and then bring them back home to really give our industries a competing opportunity, a competing chance. Now, the big issue with most emerging economies is the fact that, one, everything is largely cash-based. Now, if you have cash-based systems, you're going to have a lot of leakages. You're going to have a lot of graft. You're going to have a lot of transparency issues. You're going to have a lot of accountability issues. People say, okay, what's the difference between, someone in the UK, for example, and someone in Nigeria in terms of corruption? Corruption is everywhere. The difference is that, here they have a lot of, systems and boundaries that keep people in check. If you do stuff, there are repercussions, and there are way of tracking, there are audit trails. Everything is largely automated. Everything is traceable, is trackable. You don't have that in most countries in Africa, and that's why, if you put, someone from the UK and someone from Nigeria pretty much in the same environment where there are just no boundaries and there are no checks and balances, they would act the same way. So part of what we're trying to emphasize to a lot of these governments who are preaching transparency and they're trying to preach, good governance is you need to put these technology systems in place, in order for you to achieve that. Manual processes, everything is paper-based in most of these economies. And that's part of the reason why you have retarded, stunted growth. And also, obviously, lack of data. Even the World Bank, IFC, they can't even have credible data to do planning. I mean, when you can't even agree on census numbers, for the last how many years, how can you do credible elections, for example? So Venture Garden Group is pretty much a collection of companies, technology-based companies, that specializes in those three things. Automation, data management, and a lot of payment revenue collection systems. And when you combine those three, you get a really, really transformative effect. So we're a big data company, and big data has now become a phenomenon. And really pretty much what that is your ability to be able to take data, to be able to do things like, business intelligence, to be able to do things like planning, forecasting. All of a sudden, you're light years ahead of your competition. So we are pretty much in most of these sectors, and it looks like a lot of sectors, but pretty much it's the same underlying principle, is we leverage our technologies. We go into an industry, the first thing we try to do is try to automate a lot of the manual processes. We then, put in our payment platforms, that ensure revenue collection, accountability, and transparency. And so we're able to do it for a wide range of industries. Education, aviation, oil and gas, in the financial sectors, in power, and in others. And we have about 12 companies today in Nigeria that are cash positive. I mean, our average return is about 5x, believe it or not. And it's really simple because our CapEx is really low. You're dealing with technology, you're not building brick and mortar type infrastructure per se. Connectivity is a big issue, but that's getting better. So I'll just talk for a quick second about one of our entities, which is EduTech. Now, EduTech is the entity that's focused on education. And, like the last speaker just said, which was, kind of music to my ears. I mean, education is a fundamental in Nigeria. I mean, from most of us are from Nigeria. You know that this is the one thing that most families would save up for, even if it's just one child that goes to school. So it's really something that, is in huge demand. But the key is you don't have enough brick and mortar universities to be able to take in a lot of folks who really want to go to school. So some of the data that the last speaker shared, I mean, it's right in line with what we've been observing as well. So you have, I'll go to the next slide, you have roughly about 1.5 people who take the entrance examinations into tertiary institutions. But the university systems in our own calculation can maybe take 250,000. So you have over 1 million people who are ready to go to school. Most of them actually qualified, but don't have access. So there you go with your business case. You have, the capacity issues, you have the access issues, and the quickest way of solving this is not by building more universities, because you can't build enough universities to absorb the people. It's really leveraging technology. And what we've been able to do in a very, very smart way is get this rapid video capture technology that we're licensed from the US that's working. It's equivalent to Coursera. So this is really e-learning for Africa by Africans. And what we did was we went to our tier 1 universities, such as OAU and ABU. These are Harvards and Yales and Oxfords and Cambridge. Because if you use those universities as your flagship, you would always have demand. Everybody wants a degree from a top-tier institution, and it's the same degree that you get in the classroom that you'll be getting on this platform. So the question was, how do you replicate the experience, the classroom experience, in a very credible way on a tablet? Because what we're saying is the 1 million people that can get access, well, guess what? You can actually go sign up for this e-learning program, whether it's accounting, whether it's law, whatever it is, and you can get the same professors that are teaching your first grade classes. Because actually in the brick-and-mortar institutions, you can only have, the professor can maybe only do 1,000 students, it's a huge lecture room. But with e-learning, you have the same professor who's had tons and tons of hours in studio. And what we had to do that was we had to fly about 400 lecturers to a resort so that there will be no distractions. And they recorded a year's worth of coursework that they would normally have taught in the university. And we argue that this is even better because now you have their head of departments, in the background listening to it. You have the vice chancellor right there in the studio. So what we got most times was most of these university lecturers, they would do second and third and fourth takes because they wanted it to be perfect. You would never get this in a classroom. There's no one supervising them. So the type of quality education that you get with this platform, we think is even better if you have the discipline. And so for us, what does this mean? And this is my TTRB. So what's been our track record? Why do we feel like we're able to do this? Well, when we first got to Nigeria, we realized that there were issues with leakages with the bursary system because everything was largely about cash. So what we did was we started to automate a lot of the bursary and treasury functions of the universities and allowed people to be able to pay without having to travel distances to school, allowed them to be able to register for their classes, allowed them to be able to check their results remotely. Now, having done that, we now said, well, we've saved them this great distance, why don't we introduce distant learning? And that's how distant learning was born. So right now, on our platform, before we got these e-learning mandates from the government, we're able to have processed about 13 universities with over 200,000 student records in our system running today. The traction, we've got 2 universities already signed up, ABU and OAU. OAU is the largest university in the south, ABU is the largest university in the north, and these 2 universities already are on our platform. We have, the top other 3, from the southwest, one from the southeast, already queued up. Pretty much, and the opportunity is enormous. There's probably about 10 universities we could easily do. It's just a matter of pacing ourselves. The revenue opportunity there is about 100 million, just for 2 universities alone. So you can just imagine that, although education has social impact, it's also very profitable. Here are just a list of other companies, and just because we don't have that much time, that we've rolled out that are making money today. Fuel Tech is into automating manual stations, making them smart stations, everything from monitoring fuel, delivery, the whole 9. I just want to say something about GIBE, before I leave. It's our incubator. So the next set of companies that would be doing all kinds of very exciting things, we're incubating them today. We're giving them office space, we're giving them seed funding, and in the next 2 to 3 years, you will start seeing all kinds of very exciting technologies from this group of companies. So in closing, just really want to say that, Nigeria is hot, technology is the space, and inviting you guys to be part of the revolution of technology. Thank you.
Okay, there's a lot to say, and there's so little time to say it. But another very interesting presentation. Obviously a very talented team. And as I understand it, you're putting together, this is like a fund which attracts investment, which you then invest in these sorts of companies.
Absolutely.
So it's like an investment trust. So it's giving you a flavor of where the money would go if you invested. I believe it's the Protea Fund, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. So we also have a financing arm called the Protea Fund, and we have two folks in the room, Anthony and Joe. I can give more information. So pretty much that fund is what pretty much funds a lot of these initiatives. So if you're a fund manager, for example, if you're a PE and you wanted a traditional fund structure, you would go through the Protea Fund. It's already pre-screened. They have risk advisors. They have corporate intelligence folks who make sure that you get the types of returns that you desire.
Okay, a couple of questions. I see. Well, there's 4 hands up there. Can you do just one quick question from the lady in the hat? Yes.
I just want, you mentioned something about a mandate from the government. Could you expatiate on that? You have a mandate from the government to do an online program with universities?
Yes. So one of the huge barriers to entry, and people are saying, oh, why can't I come over and do this? It took us 2 years to get the approval in order to convince the government that online e-learning was a viable means of education. So I tell people, good luck if you want to go try and you have 2 years of time and resources to burn. It's extremely important to get the government buy-in, because right now in Nigeria, they set the tone as far as quality of education is concerned. So we had to engage with them on that. But this is purely private sector initiative and private sector driven.
Thank you. A little bit further along, there's a gentleman in grey with his hand up in the middle of that row. Just, yeah, thank you.
Hi, thank you for a very exciting presentation. I just wanted to have a view of how much are you looking to raise in funds, and can you give a little breakdown of how you want to deploy the funds? And are you in a position to pay things like dividends in currency, hard currency? Thank you very much.
Okay, wonderful question. But in the interest of time, I think all questions relating to capital raise and use of funds and returns, I think Joel and Anthony will be able to answer you. Joel and Anthony, please quickly stand up so they know where you are. They're Jersey regulated fund managers, by the way.
Okay, I'm just going to let one more question on the end here. If you could keep it brief, madam, thank you.
Thanks. My name is Yemi Sanusi. I'd like to congratulate you to start with, and I'd like to say that is it possible for you to use technology to do e-health, like healthcare, because healthcare is what is crippling Africa, and those of us in the diaspora in the health profession will be more than happy to partner with you. Thank you very much. Well done.
Wonderful, awesome question. In fact, that's already in our pipeline today. Whatever we didn't show on the screen just means that we don't have anchor customers. It doesn't mean we haven't built it yet. It's just our fund managers won't allow us to display it because it just feels like it's too much. But yes, we do. We're working with the HMOs in Nigeria right now, trying to organize that sector for them. So we think maybe in 6 months or a year, we'll be able to show that as well.
Well, again, thank you very much indeed for that very interesting presentation. Again, thank you so much.